Yes. Yeah. Om Gananam Tva Ganapatigam Havamahe Kavim Kavinamupamashravastamam Jeshtarajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspata Adashrinvanhuti Dasadanam Shri Mahaganapataye Namaha. Om Bhur तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात् ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्. I will request Rashmi to chant Nishrengyo. Yeah.
निःश्रेण्यौ ब्रह्मलोकस्य वाग्देव्याः कर्णकुण्डले धर्मद्रुममहामूले वाल्मीकिव्यासयोः कृति पूजन्तं राम रामेति मधुरं मधुराक्षरम् आरुह्य कविताशाखां वन्दे वाल्मीकिकोकिलम् बुद्धिर्बलं यशोधैर्यं निर्भयत्वम् अरोगताम् अजाड्यं वाक्पटुत्वं च हनुमत्स्मरणात् भवेत्। राम श्रीराम राम रामेति रमे रामे मनोरमे सहस्रनाम तत्तुल्यं रामनाम वरानने.
Thank you.
I'll just tell the meaning of the shloka.
Please go ahead.
It's very nice.
Please go ahead.
So, the first one, Nishrenyo Brahma Lokasya, it's talking about the kritis of Valmiki and Vyasa, that is Ramayana and Mahabharata respectively. Nishrenyo Brahma Lokasya. So, these two kritis are like steps to the Brahma Loka. Nishrenyo means steps. Vagdevyah Karna Kundale, they are like the earrings, that is ornaments of Vagdevi itself. Vagdevi Saraswati. So, and Dharmadhruma Mahamule, they are the roots of the huge tree of Dharma. Valmiki Vyasayoh Kriti, that's what the shloka means. So basically, they are spiritual steps, and as literature itself, they are like the ornaments of Saraswati itself. As literature, I mean, Saraswati is the goddess of knowledge or literature, language, and their ornaments that showing that they're such good literary works. And the last one is Dharma Dhruma Mahamule. For daily life as well, they teach us how to live with Dharma. So for all three, these two, Ramayana and Mahabharata, are very useful.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, very nice. Chinmayma has joined. She tried promoting her as the panelist. Okay, so we will get started anyway. Very happy that today will be the first session to start off with the beautifully divine Ramayana. So, yeah. I think Chinmayma, are you able to hear us? You've just joined, Allah.
Yes, I can hear you. I could hear you from that time. I was having some struggle joining. Oh, I got it.
No problem. So I was waiting for you for that particular shloka you mentioned yesterday.
Yeah, it is Maha. Yes, yes.
We started off with the Ganapati Avahana Stotra, then the Gayatri Mantra, then Rashmi chanted a shloka called Nishrinya, which she was explaining right now on how.
Yes, I heard that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Kujantam Rama Rameti, and then Buddhir Balam Yashodhairyam and Sri Rama Rama Rameti. Right. So, yeah, you mentioned about one more.
Yatra yatra Raghunatha Kirtanam tatra tatra Hrutamastakанjalim Bhashpavari Paripurna Lochanam Marutim Namata Rakshasantakam. So wherever there is the great the speech of Rama, there Hanuman will be there, and wherever there is Hanuman, there is all positivity, and there is complete. He will help you acquire his qualities, which is why whenever we say anything in Ramayana, first we tell the shloka so that first he will come and sit there.
Good. Hanumanta, yeah.
Hanumanta. Yeah, that's the reason. That's why whenever we used to do the Ramayana for the children in the Balvihars in Chinmaya Mission, before we start the Ramayana, this shloka you have to say.
You have to say. Okay.
Anytime, anywhere you're saying something connected to Rama, just mention this. So then you're sure that he's also sitting and you're going to him. So,
yeah. Nice. Very nice.
Yes.
Rashmi, do you know that shloka?
I've heard of it. I can learn it by today.
We'll add it up to that list. Then I will add my partner. Yeah. Beautiful. Okay. So, yes, we will get started. So, as we discussed yesterday in the context setting early, let us always have the fundamental context and premise that we are that particular character. Okay. So, continuous, every single sentence, ತತ್ವಮಸಿ ಅದು ತತ್ವಮಸಿ ಅದು ಯಾರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೋ ಅದು ನಾವೇ whomever Valmiki Maharshi has mentioned in that particular sentence, it is me in a different context and different situation. And let's continuously contemplate with that view in mind. So it sort of becomes like a psychology textbook, right? So I don't think there are any better psychology textbooks than Ramayana and Mahabharata, right? So with that view in mind. So I will share my screen. Yeah. Is it visible? Kanchita? Oh, perfect.
Yes, visible.
All right. So yes, so Valmiki Ramayana translated by Bibek Debroy. I decided to take this particular author because he is known to have explained it without omitting anything from the original. Yeah. So we'll stick to this version for our sessions further. Okay. Yes.
It's nice that he has the picture of Rama, Sita, and Ravana because Ramayana has 3 names: Ramayanam, Sita Charitam, and Paulastya Vadham.
Oh, nice. Okay.
All 3 pictures he has.
Oh,
in the
good.
3 volumes, there were 3 pictures.
Interesting. That's a nice insight. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah. 3 volumes only. Yeah, the first volume has Rama's photo, Sita's photo, and then Ravana's photo. Correct. Yeah. I'll start from the introduction itself. Yeah. Okay. So we'll take turns. Okay. We'll every day maybe with Nanu next day, maybe Ashwath the following day, Rashmi. We'll take turns to read. Okay. Yes. So introduction, beginning. Okay. So the Ramayana and the Mahabharata are known as itihasas. Right? The word itihasa means it was indeed like that. Iti. So therefore, the word is best rendered as legend or history and not as myth. Okay. So this does not mean everything occurred exactly as described. In a process of telling and retelling and oral transmission, embellishments are inevitable. However, the use of the word itihasa suggests a core element of truth. There were 2 great dynasties, Surya Vamsha and Chandra Vamsha. The first proper king of the Surya Vamsha was Ikshvaku, and the Ramayana is a chronicle of the solar dynasty, or at least a part of its history. Similarly, the first king of the Chandra Vamsha was Ila, and the Mahabharata is a chronicle of the lunar dynasty. Okay. So the Puranas also describe the histories of the solar and lunar dynasties. Though there are some inconsistencies across genealogies given in different Puranas, the Surya Vamsha timeline has 3 broad segments: from Ikshvaku to Rama, from Kusha to Brihadbala, and from Brihadbala to Sumitra. In that sketch, from Ikshvaku to Rama, there were famous kings like Bharata, not to be confused with Rama's brother, Kakutsa, Prithu, Yuvanashva, Mandhata, Trishankhu, Harishchandra, Sagara, Dilipa, Bhagirath, Ambarisha, Raghu, Aja, and Dasharatha. These ancestors explain why Rama is referred to as Kakutsa. Kakutstha, Raghava or Dasarathi. Rama had two sons, Lava and Kusha. Ikshvaku and his descendants ruled over the king of Kosala, part of today's Uttar Pradesh. The Kosala kingdom lasted for a long time, with the capital sometimes in Ayodhya and sometimes in Shravasti. When Rama ruled, the capital was in Ayodhya. After Rama, Lava ruled over South Kosala and Kusha ruled over North Kosala. Lava's capital was in Shravasti, while Kusha's capital was in Kusha. Is it Kushavati or Kushavati? So Rashmi can help me with pronunciations.
I think Kushavati.
Kushavati. Okay, Kushavati. We don't know what happened to Lava thereafter, though he is believed to have established Lavapuri, today's Lahore. Oh, interesting. Those are nice insights. The second segment of the Surya Vamsha timeline from Kusha to Brihadbala doesn't have any famous kings. Brihadbala was the last Kosala king. In the Kurukshetra war, he fought on the side of the Kauravas and was killed by Abhimanyu. Oh, okay. The third segment of the Surya Vamsha timeline, from Brihadbala to Sumitra, seems contrived and concocted. Sumitra is described as the last king of the Ikshvaku lineage, defeated by Mahapadmananda in 362 BCE. Sumitra wasn't killed, he fled to Rohtas in today's Bihar. The Ramayana isn't about these subsequent segments of the timeline, though there are references to other kings from that Ikshvaku to Rama stretch. It isn't about all of that segment either. Its focus is on Rama. It is difficult to date the poet Kalidasa. It could be any time from the 1st century CE to the 5th century CE. Kalidasa wrote a Mahakavya known as Raghuvamsha. As the name of this Mahakavya suggests, it is about Raghu's lineage from Dilipa to Agnivarna and includes Rama. But it isn't exclusively about Rama. Ramayana is almost exclusively about Rama. That's the reason it is known as Ramayana, which is Rama plus Ayana. Ayana meaning travel or progress. Okay. Thus, Ramayana means Rama's progress. But that's a learning. Yeah. There is a minor catch though. Ayana means travel or progress, and Ayana is a meaningless word. Oh, interesting. Okay. The word used in Ramayana is Ayana and not Ayana. This transformation occurs because of a rule of Sanskrit grammar known as internal sandhi. That is the reason Ramayana becomes Ramayana. Okay. I didn't know that actually. Rashmi, did you know that? Any insights on that? Okay. So, who is Rama? The word Rama means someone who is lovely, charming, and delightful. There are Jain and Buddhist versions, Dasharatha Jataka, of the Rama account, and they differ in significant details from the Ramayana story. For instance, in Jain accounts, Ravana is killed by Lakshmana. In Dasharatha Jataka, Sita is Rama's sister. In Ramayana and Purana accounts, Rama is Vishnu's seventh avatara. Usually, 10 avatars are named for Vishnu, though sometimes a larger number is also given. When the figure is 10, the avatars are Matsya, Kurma, Varaha, Narasimha, Vamana, Parashurama, Rama, Krishna, Buddha, and Kalki, who is yet to come. In the cycle of creation and destruction, yugas follow each other and one progressively goes down Krita Yuga, alternatively called Satya Yuga, and then Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, and Kali Yuga, before the cycle starts again. Right. In the list of 10 avatars, Matsya, Kurma, Varaha, and Narasimha are from the present Krita Yuga. Vamana, Parashurama, and Rama are from the present Treta Yuga. Krishna is from Dwapara Yuga, and Buddha and Kalki are from Kali Yuga. Rama was towards the end of Treta Yuga. In the Uttarakanda, Dwapara Yuga has started. Oh, interesting. Yeah. Just as Krishna's departure marked the transition from Dwapara Yuga to Kali Yuga, Rama's departure marked the transition from Treta Yuga to Dwapara Yuga. Good things to know, yeah. So when did these events occur? It is impossible to answer this question satisfactorily, despite continuous efforts being made to find an answer. At one level, it is irrelevant. It is an irrelevant question too. There is a difference between an incident happening and it being recorded. In that day and age, recording meant composition and oral transmission with embellishments added. There was noise associated with transmission and distribution. Noise is disturbance, basically, right? Additions and deletions. It is impossible to unbundle the various layers in the text composed at different points in time. Valmiki is described as Rama's contemporary, just as Vedavyasa was a contemporary of the Kauravas and the Pandavas. Right? But that doesn't mean today's Valmiki Ramayana text is exactly what Valmiki composed, or that today's Mahabharata text is exactly what Krishna Dvaipayana Vedavyasa composed. Right? Therein lies the problem with several approaches to dating. Right? The first and favored method of dating is undoubtedly the astronomical one, based on positions of nakshatras and grahas, or using information about events like eclipses. However, because layers of the text were composed at different points in time, compounded by precession of the equinoxes, this leads to widely divergent dates for an event like Rama's birth, ranging from 7323 BCE to 1331 BCE. Right. Second, one can work with genealogies notwithstanding problems of inconsistencies across them. One will obtain a range of something like 2350 BCE to 1500 BCE. Third, one can work with linguistics and the evolution of language, comparing that of the Ramayana to other texts. Fourth, one can work with the archaeological evidence, such as the pottery discovered in sites known to be associated with the Ramayana. Even then, there will be a wide range of dates from something like 2600 BCE to 1100 BCE. Fifth, one can consider geography, geology, changes in the course of rivers. Right? Finally, there are traditional views about the length of a Manvantara or Yuga. Given the present state of knowledge, it is impossible to impart precision to any dating of the incidents in the Ramayana. Scholars have grappled with the problem in the past and will continue to do so in the future. This may be an important question, but from the point of view of the present translation, it is an irrelevant one. The present translation is about the Ramayana text. But what is the Ramayana text? After a famous essay written by A.K. Ramanujan in 1987, people often mention 300 Ramayanas. Wow, that's a lot. It is impossible to fix the number, 300 or otherwise, since it is not possible to count satisfactorily or even define what is a new rendering of the Ramayana story as opposed to a simple retelling with or without reinterpretation. Contemporary versions, not always in written form, are continuously being rendered. There are versions of the Ramayana story in East China, Japan, Southeast Asia, many countries like Thailand, Indonesia, and Malaysia, South Asia, Nepal, Sri Lanka, and West Asia, even Iran. Right? As mentioned earlier, there are Buddhist and Jain versions. Every state and every language in India seems to have some version of the Rama story. Right? Our impressions about the Rama story are often based on such regional versions, such as the 16th century Ramcharitamanas by Goswami Tulsidas. Many of these were written between the 12th and 17th century CE. Those depictions can and will vary with what is in the translation. This translation is about the Sanskrit Ramayana. But even there, more than one text of the Sanskrit Ramayana exists. Valmiki Ramayana, Yoga Vasishta Ramayana, Ananda Ramayana, and Adbhuta Ramayana. In addition, there are versions of the Ramayana story in the Mahabharata and in Puranas. With the exception of the Ramayana story in the Mahabharata, the Valmiki Ramayana is clearly the oldest among these. This is a translation of the Valmiki Ramayana, and yes, there are differences between depictions in the Valmiki Ramayana and other Sanskrit renderings of the Rama story. If one cannot date the incidents of the Ramayana, can one at least conclusively date when the Valmiki Ramayana was written? Because of the many layers and subsequent interpolations, there is no satisfactory resolution to this problem either. The Valmiki Ramayana has around 24,000 shlokas, a shloka being a verse. The Mahabharata is believed to have 1 lakh shlokas. So the Valmiki Ramayana is about 1/4 the size of the Mahabharata. These 24,000 shlokas are distributed across 7 kandas: Balakanda, book of youth; Ayodhya Kanda, book about Ayodhya; Aranya Kanda, book of the forest; Kishkinda Kanda, book about Kishkinda; Sundara Kanda, book of beauty; Yuddha Kanda, book about the war; and Uttarakanda, book about the sequel. Kanda refers to a major section or segment and is sometimes translated into English as canto. Canto sounds archaic. Book is so much better. This does not mean the Kanda-wise classification always existed. For all one knows, initially there were simply chapters. In this text itself, there is a reference to the Valmiki Ramayana possessing 500 sargas. The word sarga also means book, but given the number 500 is more like a chapter. For the record, the text has more than 600 chapters. Most scholars agree Uttarakanda was written much later. If one reads the Uttarakanda, that belief is instantly endorsed. Yeah, the Uttarakanda doesn't belong. This isn't only because of the content, which is invariably mentioned. It is also because of the texture of the text, the quality of the poetry. Right? It is vastly inferior. To the lesser extent, one can also advance similar arguments for the Balakanda. Therefore, the earlier portions were probably composed around 500 BCE. The later sections, like the Uttarakanda and parts of the Balakanda, were probably composed around 500 CE. It isn't the case that all. It isn't the case that all later sections are in all later sections are in Uttarakanda. There is a mix of earlier and later sections across all kandas. The word kanda also means trunk or branch of a tree. The Mahabharata is also classified into such major books or sections or books. However, in the Mahabharata, these major sections are known as parvas. The word parva also means branch. However, parva suggests a smaller branch, one that is more flexible. Kanda suggests one that is more solid, less flexible. Okay. There may have been slight variations in shlokas across different versions of the Sanskrit Mahabharata, but fundamentally, the Sanskrit Mahabharata is a single text. The original text expanded like a hold all to include everything. Those different versions have been unified in a critical edition published by the Bhandarkar Oriental Research Institute, Pune. In the case of the Valmiki Ramayana, with its Kanda kind of classification, the evolution seems to have been different. If someone was unhappy with what Valmiki had depicted, he simply composed another Ramayana. Right? In Sanskrit, mention has already been made of the Yoga Vasishta Ramayana, Ananda Ramayana, and Adbhuta Ramayana. This continued to happen with vernacular versions. This translation is of the Valmiki Ramayana. It is necessary to stress this point. Both the Ramayana and the Mahabharata are so popular that one is familiar with people's stories and incidents. That doesn't necessarily mean those people's stories and incidents occur in the Valmiki Ramayana in the way we are familiar with them. Just as the Bhandarkar Oriental Research Institute produced a critical edition of the Mahabharata between 1951 and 1975, the Oriental Institute Baroda produced a critical edition of the Valmiki Ramayana. This translation is based on that critical edition, published sequentially between 1958 to 1975. Producing a critical edition meant sifting through a large number of manuscripts of the Valmiki Ramayana. The editors had around 2,000 manuscripts to work with. Not all of these were equally reliable. Therefore, in practice, they worked with 50 to 100 manuscripts, the specific number depending on the kanda in question. It is not that there were significant differences across the manuscripts, and broadly, there was a southern recension or version and a northern one. The latter subdivided into a northwestern and a northeastern one. Okay. The earliest of these written manuscripts dates to the 11th century CE. In passing, the language may have been Sanskrit, but the script wasn't always Devanagari. There were scripts like Sharada, Mewari, Maithili, Bengali, Telugu, Kannada, Nandinagari, Grantha, and Malayalam. Since this translation is based on the Baroda Critical Edition, it is necessary to make another obvious point. Chinmayma, sorry, you're saying something?
Sorry.
Yeah. Even within the Sanskrit Valmiki Ramayana, not everything we are familiar with is included in the critical text. For instance, the configuration of nakshatras and planets at the time of Rama's birth is not part of the critical text, nor is the bulk of one of the most beautiful sections of the Valmiki Ramayana, Mandodari's lamentation. Those are shlokas that have been excised, removed, basically. So that's also the case with the shloka that's often quoted as an illustration of Lakshmana's conduct. Naham janami keyuram, naham janami kundalam, nupuram tu abhijanami nityam padabhi vandanat. This is the statement by Lakshmana to the effect that he cannot recognize the ornament on Sita's head or her earrings. Since he has always served at her feet, he can only recognize her anklets. This too has been excised. There are instances with such excision where such excision has led to a break in continuity and inconsistency, and we have pointed them out in the footnotes. Okay. There are two numbers associated with every chapter. The first number refers to the kanda, while the second number within brackets refers to the number of the chapter, sarga, within that kanda. Thus, chapter 133 will mean the 33rd chapter in Balakanda. Okay. The table below shows the number of chapters in and slokas we have in the critical edition. The critical text has 606 chapters, 106 more than the 500 sargas mentioned in the text itself. Okay. And there are 18,670 slokas. If one considers chapters and shlokas from non-critical versions, irrespective of which version it is, there are almost 650 chapters and just over 24,000 shlokas. Compared to such non-critical versions, very few chapters have been excised from Bala, Ayodhya, Aranya, Kishkinda, or Sundarakandas. The excision is primarily from Yuddha and Uttarakandas. The excision of shlokas is uniformly spread throughout the kandas, though most excision, relatively speaking, is from the Ayodhya, Yuddha, and Uttarakandas. Okay, so that's the table. So name of the kanda early, Balakanda, 76 chapters, 1941 shlokas. So I think I'll just leave the table on display for a while. Okay. So totally 18,670 shlokas in 606 chapters. Yeah. All right. So I hope my pace is fine. Do I need to slow down a little bit? Is that okay? Yeah. Right. Valmiki is the first poet.
This is fine.
All right. Thanks, Ma. Yeah. Okay. Valmiki is the first poet, Adi Kavi. By the time of classical Sanskrit literature, some prerequisites were defined for a work to attain the status of Mahakavya. Right? Kalidasa, Bharavi, Magha, Sriharsha, and Bhatti composed such works. Bhatti or Bhatta, I have read as Bhatt. Yeah. Though these notions and definitions came later, the Valmiki Ramayana displays every characteristic of a Mahakavya and is longer than any of these subsequent works. The story of how it came about is known to most people who are familiar with the Ramayana. The sage Valmiki had gone with his disciple Bharadwaja to bathe in the river, to bathe in the waters of the river Tamasa. There was a couple of Krauncha birds there, and in the act of making love, along came a hunter and killed the male bird. As the female bird grieved, Valmiki was driven by compassion and the first shloka emerged from his lips. Since it was composed in an act of sorrow, shloka, this kind of composition came to be known as a shloka. That's an interesting learning. I didn't know that. So the Ramayana tells us. Incidentally, the first shloka doesn't occur in the first chapter. It isn't the first shloka of the Valmiki Ramayana. The incident and the shloka occur in the second chapter. More specifically, it is in the 14th shloka in the second chapter and is as follows. Okay. Ma nishada pratishtham tvamagama shashwati samaha yatkrauncha mithina deka mavadhi kama mohitamu. Okay. O Nishada, this couple of curlews was in the throes of passion and you killed one of them. Therefore, you will possess ill repute for an eternal number of years. Till a certain period of history, all Sanskrit works were in poetry or verse, not in prose. The way, I'll repeat that sentence again. Till a certain period of history, all Sanskrit works were in poetry or verse, right? Not in prose. It was in Padya, not in Gadya. Right? The Vedangas are limbs or auxiliaries, and the 6 Vedangas are Shiksha, Chanda, Vyakarana, Nirukta, Jyotisha, and Kalpa. These are needed to understand not just the Vedas, but also Sanskrit works. Chanda is one of these. Chanda can be translated as meter and means something that is pleasing and delightful. Chanda Shastra is the study of meters or prosody. Sanskrit poetry wasn't about what we tend to identify as poetry today, the act of rhyming. Chanda begins with the concept of akshara, akin to but not exactly identical with the English concept of syllable, that is part of a word with a single vowel sound. Other than possessing a single vowel sound, an akshara must not begin with a vowel. Aksharas can be hrasva or laghu, light or L, capital L, and guru, which is heavy or capital G. Right? Simply stated, that is laghu and guru. So simply stated, with a short vowel, the akshara is laghu, L, and with a long vowel, the akshara is guru, the capital G. There are some additional conditions, but we needn't get into those. Every verse consists of 4 padas. The word pada meaning 1 quarter. Depending on how many aksharas there are in a pada and the distribution of those aksharas into laghu and guru, there were a variety of meters. Right? Depending on the subject and the mood, the poet consciously chose a meter. Analyzing in this way, there were more than 1,300 different meters. Right? One of the most popular was Anushtup. This figures prominently in the Valmiki Ramayana, the Mahabharata, and the Puranas. The Anushtup meaning 8 aksharas meant 8 aksharas in each pada with a total of 32 aksharas. In addition, for Anushtup, in every pada, the 5th akshara would have to be a laghu and the 6th akshara would have to be a guru. Right? In classical Sanskrit literature, conditions were also applied to the 7th akshara, but such refinements came later. For that 5th verse, the decomposition runs as follows: Laghu, 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 Guru, Laghu, Guru, Laghu, Guru. Right? And then Laghu, Guru, Laghu, Guru, Laghu, Guru, Laghu, Guru. Alva? So then Laghu, Laghu, Guru, Guru, Laghu, Guru, Guru, Laghu, and then Guru, Guru, Laghu, 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 Guru, Guru, Laghu. Right? Manishad Pratishtham. Tvamaga Shashwati Samaha. So it goes, so Tva is Laghu. So the second one get. Tvamaga, has it gone exactly? So Manishada, Manishada alva, the Nishada. It's Nishada alva. Rashmi can help there.
Manishada it is.
So it's not gone exactly. So
Yeah, in Anushtup, the first 4 can be anything actually.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be Laghu or Guru.
Sorry.
Only the rules come for in one pada there are 8 alva.
8 ಇರಬೇಕು.
So first 4 can be Laghu or Guru, and then the last 4 have the rule. That's
As
what.
per Hadiru.
If it is not too much, can you give an example, Rashmi?
So Kujantam Rama Ramiti, if you take just that shloka itself, right?
Yeah.
So Ku is Dirgha.
Yes.
So that's a guru. So Jantam,
Okay.
when you take Jan, Ja is Laghu, but the next is Antam, right? So because the next one has a combination of Samyukta right?
Okay. Yeah, correct.
The previous
Two akshara.
two aksharas together, the previous Laghu also becomes Guru. Correct me
Oh,
if I'm wrong, Rashmi. Yeah, aita. So Ku Jan Ja is this one single Hrasva Swara, but because the
okay.
next subsequent is Antam,
Uh,
the Ja also becomes Guru. That is,
okay.
there is a
Okay.
heavy,
It
heavy
gets
consonant.
converted. Okay.
It becomes a heavy consonant. Ku
Okay.
Jan Tam. So the Guru Avaitali. Antam
Okay.
also Guru because it's a heavy consonant.
Okay.
Rama. So Ra, the first Ra is Guru, and then
Uh,
Ma is Laghu, okay,
okay.
and Ramiti, that is Guru Laghu.
So you have Guru, 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 Laghu, Guru, Laghu.
Ah. So so if you took, you take Namah Suryaya Chandraya
Mm,
Mangalaya Bhaya cha, right? Guru Shukrash Chanibhyascha
mm.
Rahave Ketave Namaha. So if you go in those, any shloka which has 16 aksharams for that matter, Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. If you write down the Laghu Guru Laghu on top of those aksharas,
Okay.
you will find one of these four that has been mentioned here. In
The
this
Anush. Okay.
Anushtup Chandas, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, as a musician, I'm also able to relate. The 32 aksharas is what we have in the Adi Talam, also in the Vilamba.
Correct.
Alva? Yeah,
Yeah, but
so
Anushtup goes with Aditalam. No, that is
Anushtup
yes.
goes with Adi Talam. Gurur
Yeah.
Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru
Mm.
Sakshat Para Brahma, Tasmai Shri
That's my
Gurave
Shri
Namaha.
Gurave
So
Namaha.
it sort of fits into the Adi
Set.
Talam, right? Yeah,
Yes.
right. So
So,
that's, I think,
so these are the four possibilities for each pada. Each pada can have any of
oh,
these four.
beautiful,
These
beautiful.
four
Oh, is it?
ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರಲ್ವಾ? So
Ah,
only the for each pada, the fifth one should be laghu, and
ah,
the sixth word should be guru. That is compulsory.
that is
And,
compulsory.
in
Oh,
everything it is
okay.
like that. But
Ah,
these are the four
Okay.
combinations. As I said, first four don't have a fixed one. There are
ah,
four. Actually, there are five, I guess. I've heard of five, but I think these four are the most
most
popular.
common ones. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Thanks.
That's a
Thank you.
very, that's a
Thank you for that input. Thank
yeah,
you.
that's a nice learning. Yeah, yeah, right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, we were here. Tvamagama Shashwati Samaha Yat Krauncha Let me read it here once again. Yat Krauncha Mithuna Dekam Avadhi Kama Mohitamu. ಮೋಹಿತಂ ಅಲ್ಲ ಅದು ತಮು ಅಂತಿದೆಯಾ ಅಲ್ಲಿ
ಅದು ಕಾಮ ಮೋಹಿತಾಹ actually, but
ಓಕೆ ಐ ಡೋಂಟ್ ನೋ ವಾಟ್ ದೇರ್ ಇಸ್ ಅನ್ ಎರರ್ ಹಿಯರ್
yeah.
ಓಕೆ ಬಟ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ತಮ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಕಮ್ ಮೋಹಿತಂ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಹ್ಮ್ okay so it is not that Valmiki only used Anushtup. There are actually 16 different meters in the Valmiki Ramayana. It is impossible to capture the beauty of Chanda in an English translation. Right? One can attempt to do a translation in verse, but it will fail to convey the beauty. If the original text is poetry, one starts with an initial question. Should one attempt a translation in verse or in prose? Right? This translation is based on the premise that the translation should be as close as possible to the original Sanskrit text. One should not take liberties with the text. Right? This translation is therefore almost a word to word rendering. If one sits down with its original Sanskrit, there will be almost a perfect match. In the process, deliberately so, the English is not as smooth as it might have been had one taken more liberties, and this is a conscious decision. Right? Had one attempted a translation in verse, one would perforce have had to take more liberties. Hence, the choice of prose is also a deliberate decision. As composers, there is quite a contrast between Valmiki and Vedavyasa. Vedavyasa focuses on people and incidents. Rarely does the Mahabharata attempt to describe nature, even if those sections are on geography. In contrast, Valmiki's descriptions of nature are lyrical and superlative, similar to Kalidasa. A translation can never hope to transmit that flavor. Right? There is no substitute to reading the original Sanskrit, more so for the Valmiki Ramayana than for the Mahabharata. Which occurred earlier, the incidents of the Ramayana or the Mahabharata? Which was composed earlier, the Ramayana or the Mahabharata? The Ramayana incidents occurred in Treta Yuga, the Mahabharata incidents in Dwapara Yuga. Rama was an earlier avatara, Krishna a later one. Hence, the obvious deduction is that the Ramayana incidents predated those of the Mahabharata. An inference also bolstered by the genealogy and astrological arguments mentioned earlier. However, and not just for the sake of being perverse, consider the following. Geographically, the incidents of the Mahabharata mostly occur along an east-west axis. Okay? Along either side of what used to be called Uttarapath, the northern road, more familiar as the Grand Trunk Road or National Highway NH 1 and 2. Right? The incidents of the Ramayana often occur along a north-south axis, along what used to be called as Dakshinapath. The South Road, Sanjeeva Sanyal, has made the point that while Uttarapath remained stable over time, the Dakshinapath during Rama's time was different from the subsequent Dakshinapath, with the latter more like today's NH44. Okay. To return to the point, the geographical terrain of the Mahabharata was restricted to the northern parts of the country, with the south rarely mentioned. The Aryan invasion theory has been discredited because of a multitude of reasons, but myths and perceptions that have lasted for decades are difficult to dispel. However, regardless of the Aryan invasion theory, the Ramayana reveals a familiarity with the geography of the southern parts of the country that the Mahabharata does not. Right? So the fighting in the Mahabharata in the Kurukshetra war is cruder and less refined. Right? In the Ramayana, bears and apes may have fought using trees and boulders, but humans did not. Right? A human did not tear apart another human's chest and drink blood. Right? Yeah. The urbanization depicted in the Ramayana is rarely found in the Mahabharata. We have cited these counter arguments to make a simple point. Which incident occurred earlier and which text was composed earlier are distinct questions. They should not be confused. Even if the Ramayana incidents occurred before the incidents of the Mahabharata, that doesn't automatically mean the Ramayana was composed before the Mahabharata. Okay, that's an interesting point. No? The Rama story occurs in the Mahabharata, known as the Ramopakhyana section. Right? There is no such reference to the Mahabharata incidents in the Ramayana. This is the main reason for arguing that the Ramayana was composed before the Mahabharata. The relation, I'll just check how much more we have because we're already at 6:2. So, in Marana, shall we finish off the introduction? We were here.
I think we'll close for now.
I think we should close, yeah, because it's another 4 more pages, yeah. Okay, so there is, I think we'll stop at here. There is no such reference to the Mahabharata incident in the Ramayana. This is the main reason for arguing that the Ramayana was composed before the Mahabharata. Okay, so illigondu bookmark tara hakbidakadre, I think we'll put it.
Yes.
Okay, so yes, I think the introduction itself had a lot of new things that we could get to. That's why I don't miss the introduction of any book at all. Sometimes I don't miss the acknowledgements. Miss Madala. In fact, I'll read from the cover title, including sometimes I'm crazy enough to read the copyright section. When the book was published, the publisher's name. I don't leave anything. So sometimes you will not know where you will find an interesting point. Right, yeah. All right. So yes, so thank you all once again for joining. As
Thank you.
yeah, we will continue every Thursday 5 a.m. Yeah. Okay. So the
Sure.
closing shloka, I think we will go with Chinmayma. You had some suggestions for the closing shloka. Sarve bhavantu. You know that.
Yes. Otherwise, Purnamadam. Anything.
Yeah.
Sarve bhavantu. Yeah.
Ah.
Om Sarve bhavantu sukhinah. Sarve santu niramaya. Sarve bhadrani pashyantu. Ma kaschit dukkhavat bhavet. May everybody be happy. May everybody be free from disease. May everybody have good luck. May none fall on evil days. Ya Devi Sarvabhutesh Prema-rupena samstitah. Namastasyai, 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 namo namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Thank you. Thank you all very much. See you on next.
Thank you. Thank you all. Have a good day.
Thank you, Ashwath, once again.
Same to you.
Or
Okay, bye-bye.
for the
Thank
Zoom.
you.